All right, so this experiment is where we left off with the last video. So did you try it? How did it go? Send me a message and let me know if you tried this experiment as well. So I really wish we were in class so we could do all these things like the alphabet and the mad scientist experiment. So it would be much more fun in a group setting, but hopefully you're doing these at home and you're getting valuable experience out of it. I hope you're enjoying it. So we left off, we were talking about classical conditioning and human behavior. I just want to provide just yet one more example before we move on of classical conditioning. So when you go to a movie, have you ever noticed how movie directors use music in movies? I'm sure you have. And then did you ever hear a song and then think about either the movie it was from or the person you were with when you saw the movie? And if so, you experienced classical conditioning. And so the music has become a signal that triggers memories and emotions. And so a conditioned emotion, such as fear, like we talked about, is a very difficult response to extinguish and make extinct. It may trigger physical, cognitive, and emotional reactions. But, music as a signal can also trigger pleasant emotions. Are there any songs or movies that you can think of that trigger some of these responses or emotions in you? Uh, I'd love to hear them. You can tell I'm, mom of children, but I think, the Frozen song, Let It Go. I mean, I know that has to elicit a response in my kids. So how about, did anybody see the movie A Star Is Born with the song with Lady Gaga, and Shallow? I feel like that elicits a pretty strong emotion. There's a strong connection between that song and the movie. Those are just some examples that I have. All right, moving on. So we were just introducing some superstitions. These are not in your book. This is just kind of goes along with that classical conditioning, though. So how many superstitions can you name? Here's a few. Breaking a mirror causes 7 years bad luck. Don't step on a crack or you'll break your mother's back. So what events do you think have created such of these myths? I mean, do you really think that the mirrors breaking actually caused bad luck? Or do you think that there were other factors that may have intervened in that person's life? That's probably more likely. All right. Our conclusion is the superstition is the result of pairing an unrelated event, like walking under a ladder, with a related event, like breaking an ankle. Hence the superstition, don't walk underneath of a ladder. Okay? So this is a whole list of good luck and bad luck superstitions. So you've got numbers, 13 being unlucky, 666 is the devil's number, which is also a bad luck number. However, number 7 is associated with being a lucky number. And you can go on and read through this. A bride should be carried through the door of a new home for good luck. Cat has 9 lives. Rabbit's foot is good luck. Apple a day keeps the doctor away. Clothes worn inside out will bring good luck. Oh my gosh, I've been involved with, I'm an athletic trainer. I've been around so many sports teams. Oh my gosh, athletes are so superstitious. They'll do all kinds of stuff like this, wear their clothes inside out, wear the same socks, to every single game. I mean, crazy things that they think brings them good luck. Here's other ones. Don't open an umbrella inside because it's unlucky. 4-leaf clover is good luck. What else? I've not heard this one. Smell dandelions and you wet the bed. Interesting. I did not know that one. Share if you've heard that before. If you see a ghost of yourself, you'll die soon. Wow, I don't know. Some of these I don't know. Share a pillow with a dog and you'll have the same dreams as the dog. These are interesting. All right. I'd love to know if there's any on here that that you've heard of or that you haven't heard of before that are new to you. Very interesting. Look it, there's a whole list here. All right, I'm going to let you guys read through these on your own. You can pause the video and go through them. They're kind of fun. So just little superstitions. If you sneeze, cover your mouth so your soul doesn't fall out. That's funny. Well, we've got lots about the mirror. That's like a major one. That was on the first page. Here it is again. If you break a mirror, 7 years bad luck. If you smash a mirror, you have 7 years bad luck. Everybody seems to know that one. Don't be breaking mirrors, people. All right. So yeah, how about you? Have you heard a song on the radio that triggered a memory or an emotion? Give some examples. I already gave you two. I gave you the Shallow with the movie A Star Is Born, and Let It Go from the Frozen movie. So I'm sure there's more. Let me know. We all have those. Music is a strong signal. All right. We went through that. So as far as this last section, experiment, the condition, and the impact. So we discovered that conditioning occurs when a neutral stimulus causes a formally unrelated response. Way back in the beginning, we talked, the bell was the neutral stimulus, and it originally caused no response. All right, but the impact, by studying conditioned reflexes, it became possible to examine human behavior objectively instead of subjectively. We were able to introduce the bell and see how much saliva the dog produced, and so we eventually got a conditioned response out of the dog with the bell. All right, so what about humans? So if you turn to page 246 in your textbook, there is a story here about little Albert. And so you should read that and then try to respond to the following question. Why was Watson and Raynier's experiment considered unethical? Well, I'm going to let you read through that and answer that for your own, but the answer is very clear on page 246. Give you a hint. It has to do with inducing fear. All right. And then if you wanted to look at this even farther, you can flip to page 249, which also discusses the case of little Albert in more detail. And then there are questions here, questions 1, 2, and 3, in analyzing the case study that you could look at to examine a little bit deeper. All right, so we're going to move on to taste aversions. So this kind of goes along with the superstition. So have you ever become ill and said, oh, it must have been something I ate? Well, let's find out why. So we're back on page 246 and 247. All right, oops, I guess that's the end here. All right, so I'll go through it with you. So if you're at a fancy restaurant and you decide an expensive appetizer that you've never eaten, for example, snails. Then suppose that after dinner, you go to a concert and you become violently ill. You will probably develop a taste aversion. You may never be able to look at another snail without becoming at least a little nauseated. So your reaction to snails is another example of classical conditioning. So what makes this type of conditioning interesting to learning the theorists is that when people or other animals become ill, they seem to decide it must have been something that I ate, even if they have not eaten for several hours. So it's unlikely that in this case that the concert hall in which you were sick will become the conditioned stimulus, nor will other stimuli from the restaurant, like the wallpaper pattern or the type of china that was used. What is more, psychologists can even predict which part of your meal will be the conditioned stimulus. You will probably blame the new food. Thus, if you get sick after a meal of salad, steak, and snails, you'll probably learn to hate the snails, even if they were not the cause of your illness. All right, so because you never had them before and now you got ill, it's got to be the snails, even though it very well could have been the lettuce that was bad, or the meat was undercooked, or maybe you just were ill from before and it took you a little while to get sick. So either way, not only humans do that, but animals do it as well. This was first demonstrated with rats, where animals were placed in a cage with a tube containing flavored water. Whenever a rat took a drink of the flavored water, lights flashed and clicked sounds. So then some of the rats were given an electric shock after they drank. All these rats showed traditional classic conditioning. The lights and sounds became a conditioned stimuli, and the rats tried to avoid them in order to avoid a shock. The other rats were not shocked, but were injected with a drug that made them sick after they drank and the lights and sounds occurred. These rats developed an aversion not to the lights or the sounds, but to the taste of the flavored water. So this special relationship between food and illness is used in a study that made coyotes avoid sheep by giving them a drug to make them sick when they ate the sheep. So this application is important because sheep farmers in the western U.S. would like to eliminate the coyotes that threaten their flock. Naturalists are opposed to killing the coyotes. The psychologists realized, though, that coyotes could be trained to eat other kinds of meat and thus learn to coexist peacefully with the sheep. So maybe we can condition the coyotes to stop eating the sheep and to eat something else by giving them this drug that makes them sick. So in summary, classical conditioning helps animals and humans predict what's going to happen. It provides information that may be helpful to their survival. Learning associated with classical conditioning may aid animals in finding food or help humans avoid pain or injury. So for example, parents may condition an infant to avoid a danger such as an electric outlet by shouting "no" and startling the infant each time as he approaches an outlet. The infant fears the shouts of the parents, and eventually the infant may fear the outlet even when the parents don't shout. All right, classical conditioning. All right, so this, this whole section, it should sound very familiar to when we talked about behaviorism way back in the beginning. It's an attempt to understand behavior in terms of relationships between observable stimuli and observable responses. Behaviorists are psychologists who study only those behaviors that they can observe and measure. They're not concerned with any of the unobservable mental processes. We're not dealing with Freud here. All right, we're looking at things that are objective, that can be measurable. They emphasize actions instead of thoughts. And so we're going to discuss another behaviorist learning theory called operant conditioning next week. So this so far has just focused on classical conditioning, which again is a process which a stimulus that previously did not elicit a response comes to elicit a response after it is paired with a stimulus that naturally elicits a response. All right, so in contrast, next week we'll talk about operant conditioning is a process by which the consequences of a response affect the likelihood that the response will occur again. Rewards and punishments is what we'll be talking about next week and how that affects learning. Okay, that's it for this week. There was a lot of information here. I'm sorry it was 3 videos. I tried to get it shorter, but there were some experiments I wanted to show you how to do. I hope you had fun. I hope you learned a lot. Do your guided reading, do your vocab as practice. Again, they're optional, but they're really going to be helpful tools. And then make sure you get that 9-1 quiz in. It is due Sunday night. Make sure you get that in, and I hope you do really well on it. If you're having trouble, please send me an email or a message. All right, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.